Hey guys, what is poppin'? Today we are going to be discussing a very important topic, and that is eyeshadow palettes. So to start off showing you guys my top 5 favorite eyeshadow palettes, the first has to be the Jaclyn Hill Morphe palette. Honestly, I don't think I could live without this palette anymore. I take it everywhere with me. It has, like, if I'm traveling, this is the palette I take. If I need to do a crazy night out look, this is the palette I use. If I have to do a daytime look, this is the palette I use because it's perfect. It has so many amazing colors. It has your pops of color. It has all your warm tones. If you love warm tones, this is your palette. And I'm pretty sure you guys have if you have watched YouTube videos, you guys have probably seen this palette because everybody loves it and it's just worth the hype. It's so worth it. Like, even if YouTubers would hype it up even more than they're hyping it up right now, it would still be worth it because it's just a perfect palette. It's versatile. If you're trying to do a crazy look, if you're trying to go out there, you have these colors. Even with all these colors, you could do a really like dramatic look. But at the same time, if you're trying to do like a fall look, you have these warm tones. And then at the same time, if you're trying to do like a light type of look, you have these looks. And Jaclyn Hill just uploaded a bridal makeup tutorial with this palette, and it was so stunning. So even for something like bridal makeup, this palette is amazing. This has everything you need. So I just had to mention this. Whoops, sorry. I just had to mention this because the palette is so amazing and it really lives up to its name. This is the best palette in the world. Like, this is my favorite palette that I own. Also, I wanted to mention the formula on these are amazing. The shimmers glide on and are very intense even without making them wet, and the mattes are so buttery and creamy. Like, this is my favorite matte. Let me just swatch that for you guys. But they're so buttery and creamy and blend so nicely. It kind of just blends itself. Like, do you see that pigment? And this is a swatch. This is a matte shade swatching. Usually matte shades don't swatch that nice. They perform better on the lid, but this is swatch. So imagine on the eyelid how good it is. If you guys have this palette, you know the hype and you know why it's such a cult favorite palette. So I have to mention the Anastasia Modern Renaissance palette. Would this even be a top 5 favorite palette if I didn't have the Modern Renaissance in it? Like, that wouldn't even be possible. Mine is really dirty, as you can see, because I use it so much, but this is the Anastasia Modern Renaissance palette. This is hyped up for a reason. If you love warm tones, this is your palette. The shadows are so buttery. The only thing I don't like about this palette, which is why I prefer the Jaclyn Hill palette, is that it has a lot of fallout, but like at the same time, they blend so nicely that it's worth all the fallout. And the shades are just so pigmented, and they kind of, when you put them on the lids, like, they're bright and you can keep them bright, but if you keep blending them, they can also get a bit more like blended and a bit more subtle and wearable. But at the same time, sorry, that was a long swatch because I was talking, but at the same time, if you really want to pack on the punch with color, this has it. It's kind of really similar to that Jaclyn Hill Hunt shade that I showed you guys. Focus, camera. It's kind of similar to that Hunt shade, but I love these type of shades. They're really the best. But as you can see, the pigment is A1. And that's why there's fallout, because the shadows are so blendable that it's packed in a way that when the fallout happens, like, that's a sign to show you that the shadow is going to be very blendable, because that means it's more, actually, I don't know, I know it's something, but I know the way it's pressed has more fallout if it's more pigmented. I know that. And the shimmers are also very beautiful. It's not my favorite shimmers. I prefer the Jaclyn Hill shimmers, but the shimmers are still pretty amazing, and they are still one of the best shimmers, just not the best shimmers that I've seen, you know? But the shimmers, oh whoops, that swatch got a little out of hand onto the other shade. But the shimmers are very beautiful, and especially if you wet them, these will pack a punch. Next is the Zulu palette by Juvia's Place. This is your colorful shadow eyeshadow palette. If you are trying to look for a palette that has the colorful shadows that you need, the ones that are required in every like colorful look, like these are pretty much the main mattes you need in a colorful look, this is your palette. And the pigment is literally insane for like the price. Honestly, like, it's so, even if they priced it double the actual price, I would probably still buy it because the shadows are so beautiful. Like, do you see that pigment? And that is a colorful shadow swatch. Like, these shadows, they could turn out so chalky on a swatch, but they don't. They swatch even beautifully. They're not one of those matte shades that swatch chalky but do amazing on your eyes. They're both. They swatch amazing and they are so good on your eyes and so vibrant. When you blend them, the color doesn't go away. It stays there. The vibrancy is there. So that's why this is one of my favorite eyeshadow palettes. Next, I want to talk about the Kathleen Lights and Colourpop Dream Street palette. I just love the color story of this palette, honestly. This shadow, this shimmer, you know, let me just swatch it for you guys. This shimmer packs on such a punch. I don't know if you guys can see that. I'm trying to, okay. Do you guys see that shimmer? It's so pigmented and it packs on such a punch, especially wet. This shadow is literally like heaven. And the other shadows, the mattes, are so pigmented. Obviously, because they are mattes, they don't swatch amazing. They swatch pretty well, but not amazing. But on the lids, they perform so good. They pack on the punch, they blend, and for how cheap Colourpop is, I really think that you're getting the worth of your money. Like, maybe the worth is even more than the money because the shadows are just so good. You are getting smaller pan sizes, so at the same time that does add less value, but it is so affordable and I hardly ever run out of an actual pan size of a shadow ever anyway. But shadow is goals. I love the color story. It's a really different color story from what you see in actual palettes, and I just love Kathleen so much. You guys have probably heard me talk about her on my channel so many times, and I can't wait to try out the new one that she came out with Colourpop, the Zodiac one. I'm really excited for that one. The last palette that I have to talk about in my top 5 is the one and only Tarte In Bloom palette. This is the first palette, like the first high-end palette I ever brought, and I still love it like crazy till this day because the shadows, if you are a beginner and haven't gotten a high-end shadow palette, this is the shadow for you because it has some cool tones and at the same time it has warm tones. It's like the perfect mix. It has like the 3 shimmers that you would ever like need when you're first starting off and that go in with so many different looks. I feel like you can create so many looks in such a limited amount of shadows. Not limited, they are 12 shadows, so it's not like 5 shadows. I mean, you do have your shadows, but because the tones are so unique in their own way and are so beginner friendly, I feel like you can make a lot of looks, and depending on the shadows that you mix together, you can get a variety of different things. My favorite shimmer has to be this one, which is called Funny Girl, and this shade, oh my god, I love this shimmer shade. Like you can see, I'm about to hit pan, like in the middle. It's kind of like deep because I just love that shade. It's such a beautiful shimmer shade. Like honestly, I just dab some onto my lid with my finger and it just looks so good. And I love this. This whole row is probably have to be my favorite row because it's kind of warm tones. The only coolish one is this pink one, but if you're a beginner and you're looking for a good high-end palette that has really beautiful shadows and that perform very well and are easy to work with, this is the palette. Alright guys, so those are my top 5 palettes. Sorry if I talked too much about all of them, but I was trying to be as informative as possible. If I had to pick one palette out of all these palettes, it would be the Jaclyn Hill palette, just because you get such a variety and you really get the worth for your money. And I feel like this definitely gives you the most for your shmoney, and it's really worth it, and it's like a bang for the buck. Like honestly, this is priced very well for the shadows you get, and the quality is insane. So if you're trying to spend your shmoney on a palette, this is the palette that you should spend it on because you do get a large variety with very easy to work with shadows. And yeah, that's it for this video. I hope you guys enjoyed seeing my top 5 favorite palettes. Let me know if you guys are convinced to buy one of these palettes down below, and maybe any other videos you guys want to see, because I would love to do those for you. And I hope to see you guys soon in my next video. I love you guys so much. Thank you for all your support, and you guys are amazing. Bye!